He was a day laborer who hardly made ends meet.
Hey, chin up.
But universe put him in a difficult position when his mother fell ill. And he was left with two options, either to continue his work or become the most feared criminal in Canadian history.
Fucking move it!
The choice that he took on that day will actually shock you.
I don't know what that means, Jamaican. Yeah.
Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. The story kicks off in the 20th century, an era when people with extraordinary abilities found their way into the workforce. The government encouraged these superhumans to register and contribute to developing Lincoln City. However, as machines began to replace human workers, there was less demand for their skills. With fewer work opportunities, some of these superhumans turned to illegal activities. A group called the Trust exploited their abilities to manufacture a dangerous substance known as psych, leading to a public outcry for stricter regulations on superpowers. To address the issue, authorities started using drones and robotic guardians to track and apprehend superpowered individuals acting outside the law. The story introduces Mary, asleep on her couch, who is awakened by her son, Connor, who points out that she's still in her work clothes.
We need to go to work.
During breakfast, Connor notices unusual marks on Mary's hands. She tries to hide her discomfort, but admits they're painful. Connor also finds overdue bills, which worry him. But Mary, despite her failing health, brushes it off, insisting she's fine. Later, we learn that Mary has a brain tumor impacting her abilities, making her ice powers unpredictable. The scene shifts to Connor waiting in a dimly lit lobby, filling out paperwork. When asked if he has superpowers, he hesitates before being called in by a woman. Later, he listens to a news segment on global instability and the potential danger of people with powers while driving.
How about that for an idea? I don't care if they're born with power.
He arrives at work late, earning a half-day warning from his boss.
I'm only giving you a half day.
I missed an hour.
Frustrated, he chats with a coworker about a job interview, only to be met with a sarcastic remark.
Job interview.
Oh, crushed it. Yeah, start Monday, full benefits.
Just then, a drone appears, scanning the area, and the police instruct powered workers to get permits. One worker, with an outstanding warrant, attempts to flee by firing flames, but a guardian soon arrives, taking him down. In another part of Lincoln City, police raid an apartment. A guardian robot breaches the door, but the target, classified as a Class 4 brawn, disables it by throwing a disc. As he tries to escape, an officer corners him.
Show your fucking hands!
If it were me, I would have let you.
During the raid, they discover several superpowered people being used for their spinal fluid and bags of psych, linking the case to a crime lord named Marcus Sutcliffe. Connor later meets his mother at her grocery job, where her boss, Dave, scolds her for accidentally freezing a sauce jar.
Can't keep happening. Your episodes or whatever it is.
Furious with how Dave speaks to her, Connor almost uses his powers, but they end up leaving. On their way home, Connor urges Mary to start chemotherapy, but she explains they can't afford it.
You need to start chemo.
We don't have the money.
The next day, while Connor waits for work on a street corner, he spots a Lincoln power truck. A friend warns him not to get involved, hinting at ties to Sutcliffe's gang. When the driver offers $200 upfront, Connor eventually agrees to help. Inside the truck, a quiet man named Freddie signals for Connor to wear a safety vest, and Garrett, the driver, brings him to a chemical plant. Connor tries to deactivate an electric fence, gets shocked, and instead causes an overload. A pyro named Maddie melts the lock, letting them in. As they load chemicals, a guard approaches, but Garrett, using telekinesis, confiscates his radio, and the guard backs off. When they leave, the police receive an alert about a break-in involving a red cargo van, but Garrett cleverly changes the van's appearance under a bridge, allowing them to avoid detection. Garrett leads Connor to a hidden entrance at Sutcliffe's nightclub, where Wesley Cumbo from the Trust confronts Sutcliffe over missed payments. Sutcliffe tries to explain, and Cumbo gives him a week-long extension, warning him to look into Copperhead's motives. After Cumbo leaves, Garrett introduces Connor to Sutcliffe, who sees potential in him. Sutcliffe assigns Nia to show Connor around, but Connor turns down her offer of a drink, saying he's only visiting. Sutcliffe admits to Garrett that he's too financially strapped to buy more chemicals, focusing instead on paying off Cumbo. He asks about Connor's powers, and Garrett says Connor still needs training. Sutcliffe presses them to prepare Connor for an upcoming job. Later, Garrett gives Connor a $300 bonus, encouraging him to use his powers wisely. Back home, Connor's mom, Mary, mentions she returned to her grocery job despite his concerns about her manager. She insists they need the money. At the nightclub, Nia asks Sutcliffe for a vial of psych, and he agrees, asking for a favor in return. Meanwhile, officers Park and Davis investigate a chemical theft, suspecting an electric caused the fence malfunction and a pyro melted the lock. The next day, a friend warns Connor against working with Sutcliffe's crew, but Connor sticks with Garrett, explaining he needs money for his mom's treatment. Garrett tests Connor by having him set off a car alarm, which Connor manages to do, learning he could earn $25,000 from the next heist. Garrett discovers Connor's father, also an electric, died in a heist, leaving him raised by his non-powered mother. Garrett begins training Connor, challenging him to light a bulb, a task that starts rocky but eventually improves. As they prep for bigger jobs, Connor gains better control over his powers, successfully lighting a bulb without breaking it. Garrett tests Connor's loyalty by sending him after a fellow electric who owes money, and despite a shock, Connor manages to overpower him. Garrett urges him to toughen up. Later, Connor intimidates a guy named Dave at a grocery store and assures his mom he has a stable job, but the cops, Park and Davis, catch wind of his financial issues. The next day, Connor and Garrett scope out a bank for a heist. They have a 5-minute window after setting off the alarm, and Connor notes the vault's layout. During the job, he cuts the power, and they pressure an employee to open the vault. Unfortunately, the haul is much less than expected, but they grab what they can. Outside, drones and guardians await them. Connor disables the drones, and they escape with $50,000. Back at Sutcliffe's, Garrett and Sutcliffe argue over the money for the trust. Then, Copperhead shows up, shooting Sutcliffe. Rhino steps in, but when Copperhead goes after Nia, Connor disarms her. Copperhead retaliates with a knife, forcing Rhino to kill her. Connor later finds Nia using psych, and she reveals her connection to Sutcliffe and that her powers have made her a target. At home, his mom Mary discovers cash in his drawer. Caught, Connor admits to criminal activity. Mary loses control of her powers and faints, leading to an emergency hospital visit where doctors say her tumor requires urgent surgery, far beyond Connor's budget. Outside, Park and Davis wait to question him about the heist. Park offers help if he cooperates, while Davis antagonizes him. Connor holds his ground and, though frustrated, denies any involvement, so Park lets him go, albeit reluctantly. Garrett picks Connor up, who assures him he hasn't spilled anything to the police. Connor proposes a new heist idea to Sutcliffe: intercept a police convoy carrying $10 million worth of psych. Connor negotiates Nia's release in return, hoping her powers can heal his mom, though Nia feels used and walks off. Meanwhile, Garrett tries to secure a higher role with Sutcliffe. Connor insists no officers get hurt, promising Nia her freedom once she helps his mom, but Nia accuses him of only valuing her abilities. On heist day, they set up roadblocks and wait for the armored van. Drones monitor the area, but pull back when the convoy enters a no-fly zone. The van takes a different route, so Garrett blocks it with a garbage truck. Connor disables the van's guardians while Garrett uses his powers to fend them off. Maddie opens the door, and Freddy releases tear gas. Police arrive, but a drone enters the restricted zone. Rhino, given the psych, unexpectedly shoots Maddie and escapes. As Garrett, Freddy, and Connor flee, Freddy is injured, and Rhino delivers the psych to Sutcliffe, suggesting Nia's release is unlikely due to her family's deaths. When Connor learns of Freddy's death, he accuses Garrett of betraying them to Sutcliffe. Meanwhile, at the station, Davis believes Connor is guilty, but Park views him as a mere pawn. Connor visits his mother in the hospital, promising to find a way to pay for her treatment, though she begs him to leave his criminal path. Park, spending time with his daughter Lena, reassures her that her powers won't lead to abandonment. Connor contacts Park through Travis, offering to help capture Sutcliffe before turning himself in. The police prepare to arrest Sutcliffe, but chaos ensues when he escapes with Nia and Rhino. Garrett shoots Sutcliffe, sparking a showdown with Rhino. Using his powers, Garrett slows Rhino down, and Connor joins in, wielding his electricity. Rhino grabs Connor, but Garrett ultimately defeats him with a deadly combo. Nia grabs Sutcliffe's weapon, and Garrett forces Sutcliffe into submission. Connor then promises Nia her freedom if she helps heal his mother. Garrett hands Connor Sutcliffe's useless gun. But Nia, showing an injury from healing Connor earlier, warns that saving his mother could be fatal for her. With Connor insisting, she reluctantly agrees, but he ultimately reconsiders, torn by his mother's situation. In an emotional moment, he says goodbye to Mary as she passes. He then gives Nia his truck, allowing her to leave Lincoln City. Meanwhile, Garrett delivers the psych to Wesley, positioning himself to take over the drug trade. Connor visits his mother's grave before leaving the city. Nia has a heartfelt reunion with her father. Against this backdrop, the public votes on a superpowers regulation ban, and Park, with conflicted feelings, accepts a commendation for the raid against Marcus.